Don't trust the mage. It is a sentiment shared by many of your companions, sometimes frustratingly, and among anyone familiar with Dragon Age. You don't trust the mage. In each Dragon Age game, a mage companion, always the apostate, turns out to have been secretly using you in order to further their own goals. Most people call this a betrayal, but I'm unsure how accurate that is. None of them switch sides at the last second or turn out to have been sabotaging you. They were all just working towards their own mysterious goals. Quietly. Sometimes withholding very important information. Morrigan. Soulless. Betrayal may not be the most accurate word, but it's always a pretty big bomb to drop on the player. So, which one of these is going to be the one? I actually asked this question as a poll on my Dragon Age Tumblr way back when the companions were first announced. And I did include all of them, not just the mages, because I don't trust any of these fuckers fully. Except for Davrin, who I trust with my firstborn child, because he will be the father of it. But for the sake of brevity, also known as my own sanity, we're just going to be focusing on the mages, and we're going to start with the mage that has brought the most suspicion, Bellara. If you're new, or it's just been a minute since you've played Dragon Age, you may wonder why Bellara is the mage that's drawn the most suspicion, but I am here to tell you that it is not unwarranted. Bellara is the Veil Jumper. She specializes in the Fade and the Ancient Elven Empire, the two most important things to our deviled egg, Solus. It has been established that Solus has a network of agents working with him, and most, if not all, are elves. A huge part of Trespasser, the last DLC of Inquisition, which directly sets up the events for Veilguard, is learning Solus has spies, many of which have already infiltrated the Inquisition. It is not a stretch to imagine that he's clever enough to sneak in one of his own into the Veilguard. Bellara already has all the means and motives. She's an expert on the Fade, she's a scholar of the ancient elves, and her bubbly, excitable personality would draw you to trust her faster, making her betrayal all the more painful. So, why don't I think it's her? In short, for all the reasons I just listed, Bellara is too easy. She already feels a bit like a mirror of Solus's character and role in Inquisition. For her to serve almost the exact same purpose in the end, working against your cause for the direct opposite of what it hopes to achieve, would feel derivative. It would be far more interesting if Bellara were the honest version of Solus. Instead of being cagey and slow to trust, she's open and friendly. Instead of lying about the sources of her knowledge, she's honest. She's what Solus could have been to the Inquisition if he had been telling the truth about his goals. Maybe even the mage the Inquisition could have really used if she had just been there to help. But she couldn't. She can now. I find that story much more compelling. So, could it be Emmrich? No. It is not Emmrich. I do think there are places where Emmrich could be sympathetic to Solus's cause. As I said before, he is a fan of rehabilitation, second chances. Solus wanting to bring back something lost in a better form than it died in is precisely what Emmrich does with his necromancy. There's a symbolic connection here that I'm certain is not an accident. Solus's nature of being long misunderstood is something I imagine Emmrich may feel sympathy for, as his art is something deeply misunderstood outside of Navarra. Necromancy is often confused with blood magic in the rest of Thedas, demonized. For Solus to have his cause, his work, twisted into something evil by those who did not care to even try to understand is a feeling of frustration Emmrich knows well. So why am I so sure it's not him? It's because of how the devs talk about him. Emmrich is supposed to be a different take on a necromancer, a kind, level-headed teacher who believes in the best of people no matter their forms. As I said before, this will make him sympathetic to Solus, but to straight up betray you and have been secretly working against you the whole time goes against the gentleman necromancer the devs seem so dedicated to. Emmrich is not a villain. He's a guide, a teacher, a point of reference for viewing something foreign in a new light, but he is not a traitor. So if it isn't Bellara, and it isn't Emmrich, that leaves Neve. Yes, I think it's Neve. If it's anyone, and who knows, maybe this game will be the one to break the streak, I think it's going to be Neve. There is something very ironic about the one we cannot trust being the detective. The person who is meant to help us solve the puzzle is actually the one taking it apart. It's delicious. She is a private eye, but Solus isn't the case she's solving. We are. But why? Neve is a human, and Tevinter, a descendant of the very people who destroyed Arlathan. And perhaps that is our answer. Neve is a shadow dragon. She works towards a better, freer Minrathous. Maybe she believes Solas's plan of reshaping the world into something new is the best way to do that. Rewrite Minrathous, rebuild it from the roots. Do it alongside the last fragment of the empire your people destroyed, that once tried to do your same work so long ago. Her being human throws us off the scent, and could be used to show how much Solas has either grown in the past decade, or how desperate he's become. The game is still 20 days away. There is plenty of time for me to be wrong. Maybe it'll turn out the real traitor is Manfred, Emmrich's skeleton son, who's been secretly possessed by the dying soul of an old god this whole time. Wait. You may have noticed I haven't been able to stick super well to my one video per day through all of October plan. And I'm sorry to say it most likely will continue. I will have no video out tomorrow or the day after, but I promise there is a good reason. As we approach the latter half of the month and get closer to Veilguard, I would like to take a look back and do some deep dives into aspects of this game that have had a decade to cook in my head. And perhaps nothing has cooked more than what I will bring you soon. I talked about the mages that may betray you, but I did not bring up the most controversial mage in all of Dragon Age. That's because he needs his own video. There's just too much to say. So prepare yourselves for the Anders video.
Anders, what have you done?
There can be no turning back.
I finally got a mic stand, by the way. I don't know what to do with both my hands now. I'm very free.